Hello and welcome to the channel. This is why we should not fall into the trap of listening to the sweet mouth of politicians. 7.5 years ago, President Buhari promised 40,000 megawatts increase in power generation. As of today, Nigeria power sector is experiencing its worst level with less than 4,000 megawatts being generated. Subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you. APC failed on 40,000 megawatts promise. Russians 4,000 megawatts. The state of the Nigerian power sector has degenerated to its worst level in the last 7 years as industries and homes ration less than 4,000 megawatts of electricity, despite promises made by the All Progressives Congress APC government to increase power generation to 40,000 megawatts. Despite indicators such as regulations, metering, debts, corruption, corporate governance, generation capacity, grid performance, transmission, distribution capacity, and sanctity of contract rated poor by industry stakeholders, the current administration may have spent above 1.7 trillion naira to intervene in the sector while borrowing another $3 billion. Stakeholders who spoke with The Guardian in separate interviews said most Nigerians are paying for darkness, adding that the sector has been abysmal under President Muhammadu, as 3 ministers brought in to manage the sector could not turn things around. APC during the 2015 election campaign promised to increase electricity generation and distribution to 40,000 megawatts between 4 and 8 years. The APC government shall vigorously pursue the expansion of electricity generation and distribution of up to 40,000 megawatts in 4 to 8 years. The party will also work assiduously at making power available from renewable energy sources such as coal, solar, hydro, wind, and biomass for domestic and industrial use wherever these prove viable, the party's manifesto had noted. Just last week, Minister of Power Abubakar Aliyu, who took office after Babatunde Fashola and Mamman Saleh failed to perform, gave a self-appraiser, pointing to what he called a bright prospect for the sector. But industry players insisted the sector is in a sorry state and requires urgent lifeline. Association of Power Generation Companies had, in a document shared with The Guardian, said available power generation capacity was 6,606.28 megawatts in 2015, but currently stands at around 5,634.47 megawatts. The national grid collapsed about 99 times under the Buhari government, leading to a loss of 1.76 trillion naira for the generation companies alone. Also, most distribution companies, DISCOs, are already insolvent as debt crises have brought the sector to its knees. Amid challenges of metering, increased tariffs, and transfer of funding of new transformers, poles, wires, and others to consumers, Nigerians in the past 8 years have spent about 5.7 trillion naira on supply of electricity. They pay an average of 720 billion naira yearly in electricity bills. The practice of load shedding and electricity rationing is ongoing across the DISCOs, 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory (FCT), with DISCOs accepting an average of 3,000 megawatts daily in the last few weeks. Stakeholders expressed concerns about the state of the sector. Recall that the federal government had privatized the power sector in November 2013 with expectations that supply to homes and industries would by now exceed 40,000 megawatts. Data obtained from the Oshogbo-based Nigerian electricity system operator show that available electricity in the country as of 5 p.m. on Sunday was 4,231.60 megawatts. A professor of energy law at the University of Lagos, Yemi Oke, said there is nothing to show for the investment in the sector as performance has been stagnant. All is not well in the power sector, Oke said, noting that most of the initiatives introduced by the current administration to solve some of the challenges are a complete mess. He said, Nigerians are still purchasing transformers only to remain assets of the DISCOs. GenCos are still complaining about the shortfall in the sector. The sector has continued in the blame game. Oke described the sector as a bottomless hole where no investor will put his money as the industry is already creating problems for banks. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and please turn on the notification bell. Thank you. The Don said while he has lost hope in the ability of the current government to fix the sector, the next administration must ensure reacquisition and refinancing of the sector, restructure the DISCOs, restructure the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC), ensure progressive licensing regime, abolish Rural Electrification Agency, cede rural electrification funds to states, and promote captive generation, among others. Former chairman of NERC, Sam Amadi, said the power sector has been a total failure in the last 7 years, stressing that supply has been poor with debt rising while government continues to invest in the sector. The debt is high, revenue collection is a challenge, the grid has been experiencing repeated collapse. The sector is in its worst state, it is a mess. We are still generating 4,000 megawatts. There is a lack of leadership. There are more corruption cases. The regulator is weaker than ever, and the power ministry has not performed. The sector has been in crisis, Amadi said. Managing partner BBH Consulting, Madashi Ame, said the sector has remained epileptic over the past 7 years, contrary to the high hopes Nigerians had at inception of the current administration. The campaign promises to fix the sector and guarantee 24 hours power supply within a short period in the first tenure was completely ignored as if it was never made, Ame said. He said though there has been marginal improvements in power supply in some parts of the country, the successes are too few and far between. Going forward, several structural changes are required in the Nigerian electricity supply industry (NESI) for the change desired in the power sector to become visible. On the generation side, all stranded generations must be mainstreamed through an effective and efficient transmission network. If this is done, there is enough generation capacity in the country at the moment to make a difference. On the distribution side, the current distribution companies have all performed below par. Their contracts on the verge of expiring should not be renewed, and new international players or local players with strong international collaboration should be brought on board. The efficiency of the collection of tariffs also needs to be looked into, since that is the only way revenue flows into the power sector. Regulation through NERC and other sector regulators needs to be stepped up, and appointment into key positions should be based on competence and experience rather than patronage, Ame noted. That's the news, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye.